Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is 606, posted to r/AmITheAsshole and r/AmITheAsshole with an H. Posted April 11th, 2024. Would I be the asshole if I don't go to a personal mastery seminar my mom went to? I, 25 female, have my mom, 63 female, living with me in my apartment due to the people we used to live with, and then eventually she lived with, being horrible to her and treating her poorly, both mentally and financially. It took me months to convince her to come with me instead to better herself. But she finally did, and has been happier since. A while back, she was introduced to a 3-day weekend personal mastery seminar course. She was very interested in it, and while I was skeptical, I said she should go if she wants. She did, and she ended up loving it, which was great, and I was glad for her. Every now and again, she brings up the seminar, talking about how she thinks it would help me and be good for me, etc. I've tried to keep an open mind, but I remain very skeptical of this whole thing, as it's supposedly an interactive course that's meant to change your way of thinking about things. That being said, she's not allowed to tell anyone what actually happens at the seminar. No one is. It's part of the rule of the place. So me, being paranoid and skeptical as I've learned to be, doesn't trust it, and I've expressed this. My mom has been understanding of that fact. Still, though, she continues to bring it up now and then. A few days ago, while shopping, we saw one of my mom's friends, Julie, 60s female, fake name, and they got to talking about the course, which they have both gone to. They both really kept encouraging me to go, and I expressed discomfort at that, and they said they understood, and I could go when/if I'm ready. I thought it was finally over with. Yesterday, my mom suddenly sprung on me that Julie has received an anonymous donation to sponsor someone to go to the seminar this weekend. It costs $995 to sign up. And Julie wanted to sponsor me. Julie's husband even offered to use his hotel points to get me a free room so I'd be able to go for totally free. This is a cult. I felt so uncomfortable and didn't know what to do. I had a very long talk with my mom about how I feel extremely pressured to do this thing I really don't think I want to do, and she seemed receptive and understanding, but now I feel like I'll be an asshole if I don't accept an extremely generous offer, despite the fact that I'm uncomfortable. My mom has given Julie's husband my number, and he plans to call me and talk to me about the seminar, and I really don't even want to have the conversation. I'm trying to have an open mind, but I really don't like the idea at all. I feel very forced into this situation despite my mom saying I don't have to go. So, would I be the asshole? Edit because I forgot to add. Friend opinions are insanely mixed. Some say I should go, some say I shouldn't. Some say it would be good to get away. Some say it feels fucked up they put me in this position. Some say I'm an asshole if I don't go. I don't know anymore. Edit 2. I know I literally just fucking posted this, but Julie's husband just texted me sending me details on the hotel because he just used his points to book me a free fucking room. I'm literally going to cry, LOL. Verdict, not the asshole. Relevant comments. Editor's note, in the comments someone links to a 7-year-old post about an MLM/cult. Quick Possession 245 links the post. The post goes as following. Clemmer and Associate /personal mastery. What fresh hell is this? A very good friend of mine suddenly began posting info about a K&A retreat she took, and the line of PM me for more info and a promo code to join me in this journey popped up at the end, immediately setting off my what the fuck is this alarm. Snooped at photos from all the others at this retreat, most of which show their positions as XYZ position at Arbonne or other MLMs, Arbonne being most common. I can't find information anywhere on what exactly this is, and as a result, how am I supposed to respond when I inevitably get asked to join on this journey? When there's a physical product involved, it's an easy nix, but this reminds me of the life leadership scams, but even more abstract. Best I've been able to deduce is that this company hires individuals to be presenters or leaders of these retreats to help you become a better person, etc. You then, after taking training, can pay for certifications to make money training more people. I can't find an income disclosure, but it looks like they're actively recruiting people to become these PSI leaders and pay for coaching. And then returning to the comment from Quick Possession 245. Looks like bullshit to me. OP responds, "Wait, this is the exact course!" A comment from that link sub was shared by Moselle. Yeah, I read this comment on there. Sorry for the late response. I don't really frequent this sub, but it just so happened I got reminded of when I got convinced to go to a meeting of theirs a few years ago and thought I'd do a search here for fun to see if there was anything new about them. My wife of my family's pediatrician, who is ludicrously respected around town and still is, and a sort of family friend is some degree of coach for Clemmer and Associates, and was asking my dad if he would be interested in a weeknight seminar. My dad, not knowing any better and being polite, said he would be out of town, true, but would see if I would be interested. I was in a less than good job at the time and was struggling in my career development. I said sure. Doctor's wife calls me up to give me the sales pitch about how much the program has helped her and her family, yada yada. I figured what would be the harm in an evening seminar, probably about leadership in the workplace, etiquette, your standard work-life improvement stuff. I paid $20 and went. It was actually pretty well attended and in the ballroom of a hotel. They say about the ballpark about 75 or so attendees. I even see some parents of friends of my siblings. It starts off pretty normal. Just says your standard things about self-reflection, bettering yourself, and this program can help you get there. It also goes into the whole life cycle of the program. This night was step 1. Then there was a couple of weekend conferences. Then capping off with a week-long training to finish the program, at which point you can become one of the coaches like Doctor's wife was. We do some icebreaker things. If I remember right, it was just to introduce yourself to 3 people. Then they started talking about the line of books the company had for sale, and more of the same promises of what the program can do. My enthusiasm is starting to fade. Then the presenter said something along the lines of, "So as we reach the end of the first hour, consider where you are now as we move into the next 2 hours of the introduction of our program." Strike 1. It's a weeknight. I'm still in my work outfit. I'm not getting home at 9 o'clock unless this is worth my time. I should add there was nothing in advance that said the seminar would be 3 hours long. Beneath the chair is a pamphlet about the program, and attached is an order form in very, very tiny print. I see that the full cost of the program from tonight to a full week event would tally close to $16,000. I'm assuming, and frankly hoping, that includes lodging and meals, but still. But I'm the type of person that would sit through a presentation on the types of grass and their growing habits for 3 hours if it had good intentions. Plus, I wanted to be polite, even though I was thoroughly convinced that this wasn't my bag. The tone of the speech turned slightly and asked you to examine yourself. What did you think were the problems in your life? Are you doing anything to address them? What are your hopes and aspirations? Discuss your dreams with the person sitting next to you. I took one look at the middle-aged lady sitting next to me, just kind of muttered out an "excuse me," and walked out. Not doing that. Some things come up. I'm late for a thing that happens to not be in this building. Part of it was that I wasn't exactly in the best spot of my life, and my dreams were being reassessed. Part of it was that I'm sure as hell not discussing that with strangers. With that wound picked at, I left feeling kind of miserable. Out a perfectly good $20 and with no new skills to boot. I did some homework later on the company and found that this is how their whole system works. Hour 1 is the introduction. Hour 2, you reflect on everything wrong with your life. Hour 3 is a taste of how you, through their magical program, can fix it. Worse still, some sources I was reading up on encourages their program in place of legitimate therapy treatments. So, to answer your question, there's no physical product. It's about being coached and then turning around and coaching others, which, compared to MLM standards, might be even worse in comparison. Might there be some legitimate ideas in there? Sure. But where I work now will send you to professional development things at your request. Will in some cases cover the costs and even pay your normal wage while you attend. Those programs probably teach those same lessons without 3 hours of tear down and build up. Oh well, live and learn. Everyone steps into an Amway meeting at some point, but my outright irritation at this company came later. Wife of Doctor shoots me a quick message saying that she was sorry I couldn't stay for the full program and that she would leave a free copy of the book in my mailbox. Alright, fine. It shows up in my mailbox and I never touch it. I get a call a few weeks later from another coach rep, which, as an aside, I was working the legal field and Clemmer & Associates sounds exactly like 75% of the places I was applying for jobs at, which is why I didn't immediately hang up. The rep wanted to touch base because I had attended their seminar. I kind of listened, planning on letting her down gently when she said, "Wife of Doctor said you loved the free book though." Okay. Nope. Do not put words in my mouth. I'm obviously heated and say, actually, I did not enjoy the book and do not contact me further. She apologizes and hangs up. Doctor's wife texts me, what timing, saying that she was misinformed and that I would be removed from their list. I ask that any family members of mine that have been added to their information be removed as well. A few months later, I get a similar sales-esque phone call. So I've clearly been lied to. I got nasty on the phone, which I emphasize never happens, and I haven't heard anything since. So, put it simply, these guys are hacks. If you want to be a better person, there are so many great ways you can do that for free. I feel good volunteering, for instance. On the other hand, if you need therapy, go get some therapy. They aren't talked about much online, but these guys are at best way too expensive life coaches and have drunken too much of their own Kool-Aid for their own good. At worst, they're preying on vulnerable people for many thousands of dollars. I'd say scam MLM preying on the vulnerable. Don't go unless you actually want to join in this. There are many better, healthier, and cheaper ways of gaining personal mastery. OP responds, in case you forgot this was a comment under a thread of OP's mom going to a seminar, "Thank you for this. Looks like my mom and I are going to have a very, very long and extensive talk when I get home. This is by far the worst scam she's fallen for. I cannot believe I haven't looked into this sooner." User Silent Coffee 7292 comments, "OP, go watch The Vow on HBO now and make your mom watch it with you. It'll open your whole world to how horrible these places truly can be." Update, July 22nd, 2024, 3 months later. My update wasn't approved in r/am I the asshole from a few months ago, and I wanted to share it here instead. Here's what I originally put in the update that wasn't approved. In my previous post, I detailed how my mom went to a personal mastery course and she wanted me to do the same. More details on that here. I went home and had a long talk with my mom. She was very resistant at first, but ultimately settled down and just listened. She asked a few questions here and there, and I answered to the best of my ability. I explained everything and laid it out on the table. I shared the testimonials I could find from real people who described exactly what happened during those seminars and how screwed over they got by it. She couldn't believe it. She started to cry. She felt upset and betrayed, and she asked me, how could she be so stupid? I had to calmly explain to her that she wasn't stupid, that she was preyed upon by people she could trust while she was in a vulnerable state. She seemed to understand after I explained how they almost did the same to me while I was also in a vulnerable state. More talking, and I come to find out the people that turned her onto the idea of going to the seminar herself before were Julie and her husband. I described to her in vivid detail how they would go about this, how they would start with saying how it changed their life, then have someone call you, then have someone pitch it to you over the phone until you finally caved and spent $1,000 and went. Her jaw seemed to drop to the floor because that was what she experienced. After talking for a while, I later learned that Julie and her husband were begging my mom to come on Sunday of the weekend I was supposed to go. After digging into this more, I think they may have been planning to start trying to bring her into the side of pulling people into the cult-like organization. She didn't go, but she didn't want to believe that Julie and her husband were a part of this, and wanted to believe they were good people who didn't know what they were doing. I was once again skeptical, but I told her they are not my friends and I will not allow her to handle it accordingly. She understood, and while not revealing that she knew it was a scam, has since tried to text or call Julie. She never returns her calls or texts. She's ghosted my mom. I think that was one of the bigger nails in the coffin for her. User Silent Coffee 7292 had pointed out a show by the name of The Vow on HBO. They explained how it was a documentary of a similar sounding cult, and that it may be worth making her sit down and watch it. After our long talk, I made her watch. She stared at the screen in horror for the first episode I watched with her. She told me in a trembling voice that this was the exact seminar she'd gone to, just with a few small details changed. That documentary details another company that, in the end, it was revealed to be a sex cult. It opened my mother's eyes and mine. So, that's what happened. My mom accidentally fell for an MLM cult and was betrayed by her friends and almost betrayed me while she was at it. Julie and her husband never contacted her and I again. Mom still thinks about it sometimes, but I noticed the things she had from her exercises from the seminar that she used to hang on her wall are missing. I feel bad for her, but I'm just glad I got her out of there when I did. I hope this was a satisfying update. Thank you to all the Redditors from my first post who helped me find out that Clemmer & Associates was an awful scam and helped me break my mother away from this awful thing. I appreciate you immensely. Thank you. As a gentle reminder, if a seminar ever requires you to pay upwards to $1,000 and then asks you to keep everything quiet and they focus on tearing you down so they can build you back up, that's a cult. Or an MLM. Usually and. They're extremely predatory and they're built to prey on people who are in a bad position in their life and they're just looking for that answer. Something to kind of help them guide them to whatever path they want to find. And their promise that if you just simply take this seminar, you'll find that path. They're extremely predatory. They don't care about you. They don't care about where you go. They don't care about how it helps you or makes you feel or what it actually does to support you. Or, in contrary, what it could do to harm you. The financial strife it could cause. The pain that it might leave behind. The isolation that it could deliver. All they care about is just how many zeros are on the check you write. Thank God OP posted about this on Reddit and managed to learn what was going on so they could inform their mother. And also, just remember, don't be embarrassed if you fall for one of these. Don't double down, don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. These people, their entire career in life is built around preying on people who are vulnerable and down on their luck and knowing when and how to say the right things. Their job is to literally trick and deceive you. All that matters is at the moment that you see what's going on and see those red flags that you get the hell out. Also, if I remember correctly, The Vow is about Nixium, and that's a pretty fucking spooky cult right there. This post was reposted by BRU Reposting. This account has gone and reposted this because the original was deleted, so they've done what they can to preserve it. The original OP is ACFF posted to r/malicious compliance June 1st, 2019. CEO didn't understand what my department did, apparently. Some backstory. I was a general troubleshooter for my company. My job involved a lot of traveling to different clients we support. My area of work is Ontario, Canada, where I'm based out of, and some of the nearby states in the United States, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Pennsylvania. I did most of my traveling by car since my schedule can change quite quickly and flying can become very expensive. I had one colleague who is technically my subordinate, but we have a very good working relationship and would often handle calls independently of each other, only checking in by phone once a week and in person once a month when necessary. A little over a year ago, I get an email calling me to the head office in New York City for a meeting with the CEO and the board of directors regarding my job. I checked with my colleague and he got the same email. So we made our travel plans and meet in New York City the following week. We have dinner together the night before our meeting and can't figure out between us what the issue is about. It's rare to get summoned to head office and more rare for things to be so vague. When we go into the meeting the next day, we are informed that the company is dividing our department between the US and Canada, and that there would be a new person to deal with the US clients, and we were to restrict ourselves to Canada. Both my colleague and I were a little shocked at this, since neither of us had even heard this was being discussed. I asked who the new person for the US was, and we then learned that it was a new hire that the CEO had taken a special interest in. Trying to be a good spirit, I offered to train the new person. There are many realities of the job that are not in the job description. CEO accepted, and then brought in the new hire. In walks a young lady who looks about 23 years old and wears an expression that she knows everything. She sits at the table and immediately makes it very clear that she wants nothing to do with us. The CEO will henceforth be Bob, the new hire is Karen, and my colleague is Jim. Bob: welcome, Karen. We've just informed OP and Jim about the change in structure, and they're willing to give you the support you need to get yourself started. Karen and Bob both look at me. Glad to have you aboard, Karen. I think both Jim and I have a lot of experience to share with you, and we're happy to do so. Perhaps it would be better in a separate meeting, so we don't take the board's time. Karen responds, thank you all. I have a lot of ideas about how I can streamline our department and new policies I can introduce that should save the company a lot of money and expenses. I'm very confused at this point. Karen is speaking as though she's my supervisor, and that is distinctly not what Bob spoke to us about. I can see some of the board members giving strange looks at this as well. Bob, perhaps I misunderstood the new roles here. Would you please clarify? Sure, Karen is the new head of your department, and both you and Jim will answer directly to her. A board member chimes in. That isn't what we discussed or approved as a board. We weren't fully convinced of dividing the department, but this is completely against what we discussed. Karen responds, well, what did you discuss then? Board member, that your department would be divided between US and Canada. OP and Jim would remain north of the border and you would run the US. Karen, that's not what I was told, but I can work with that, as long as these two stay out of my way. Indicating me and Jim. Jim and I are both shocked and insulted to be spoken of in this manner. We're both very good at our jobs, and before today, have never seen this woman in our lives. Bob, that settles it. OP, effective immediately, you and Jim are to have nothing to do with Karen. Do not interfere with her work at all. You are both to restrict yourselves to working within Canada only. With that, he ended the meeting and left the room with Karen close behind him. Jim and I sat there stunned for a moment, and some of the board members came up to us to express their shock and sympathies about this. I had enough presence of mind to ask if we would get a written directive of this change and was assured we would. Sure enough, both Jim and I got emails with the new directives from Bob by the end of the day. So, after sending an email to all of our US-based clients advising them of the change and giving them the contact information of Karen, Jim and I made our way back to Toronto and reorganized ourselves for working with Ontario only. This meant much less traveling for us, so it gave us more room to breathe. Within a week, I was getting complaints from our US-based clients that Karen was not answering emails and missing appointments. I forwarded these emails to Karen and copied the entire board, including Bob. Another week later, I get a phone call from Karen, who sounds frantic but will not admit she needs help. She makes pleasant conversation and then asks how I would handle a particular type of situation. I tell her I'm not really interested in discussing work, as that might be seen as interfering in her work. Later that evening, I got a call from Jim telling me he had the same conversation with Karen and handled it the same way. By the end of that month, I get a call from Bob asking if I'll take over the entire department again. I politely tell him no, since I don't want to interfere with Karen and her role. For the next 3 months, I'm getting emails and phone calls from US clients asking if they can have me back as their contact. This confirms an idea that had been in my head. Jim and I had actually grown our client base in Ontario since restricting ourselves here. So I had lunch with Jim one day and asked if he wanted to go into business with me as partners, starting our own consulting firm. We couldn't provide everything our current company provided, but we could provide a high degree of professionalism for our specific field, and it seemed we had a ready-made client base. By the end of lunch, he was on board, and we started the necessary steps to get ourselves set up. As soon as we were clear, we both submitted our resignations with explanations of why. The next time clients contacted us, we told them we no longer work for the company. When they asked if we still worked in the field, we told them we had established our own firm and what services we offered. A month later, we had 60% of our US clients on board, and since the former company had no Canadian support at all, we had 80% of the Canadian clients. Within 2 months, we had 80% of the US and 90% of the Canadian clients. In the years since that time, our new company has grown enough that we have hired 7 new consultants. Jim and I find ourselves doing more office work than road work, and a lot of client courting. Our old company has had to stop offering the in-person troubleshooting, what our department did, and Bob was fired by the board. No idea what happened to Karen. Update. Because of the interest expressed in the comments, I made a phone call to one of the board members I remained on friendly terms with. Here are some answers to questions. How did Karen get the job? Apparently, Bob had set up a business school scholarship out of his own money, which had put something like 6 or 7 students through business school. Karen was the latest graduate, and Bob wanted to give her a start in the business world. Was Bob sleeping with Karen? No clear answer was given. But Bob's wife divorced him shortly after he was fired from the company. Make of that what you will. What happened to Karen? Well, apparently she got a job as middle management in a financial services company. Hopefully she can still build a life for herself and had learned some important lessons. What happened to Bob? Well, last I heard he was a regional director for a large hotel chain. Hopefully he also lands on his feet. Everyone deserves a chance to make a life for themselves. Some questions why the board was there for this meeting. I honestly don't know, and neither did the board member I spoke with. It was one of their regularly scheduled meetings, and Bob added things to the agenda. Some question my use of non-competes, saying it's not nice. It's a normal reality in the business world. The oddity is that my old company did not have one. The non-compete I have my employees sign is not overly burdensome. It protects our intellectual property and professional contacts. It does not in any way restrict the employee's ability to work in the field. That said, Jim and I have both agreed that if an employee leaves us on good terms and reasonably asks to be released from their non-compete, we would oblige. Some inquired if we're still hiring. Unfortunately, we are not. We're taking a pause from expansion right now as Jim's wife is dealing with cancer. I don't want Jim to worry about the office while taking care of his wife, so we've decided to maintain our size, which I can do with minimal input from Jim. Until his wife is in remission and he has a chance to rest and return his attention more fully to our company. Jim and I treat each other like family, so this is a natural step for us. Thank you all so much for your interest and the great feedback and discussion in the comments. So, I've got 2 main points. The first one that I want to kind of poke at is the way that OP speaks about their job is the same way that I speak about my job when people ask me questions about what I do for work. I keep it just vague enough so that way it's hard to pinpoint exactly what I do, but I can give enough information to where it's, oh, okay, so you do something that works with online and works with the media space, and it keeps you busy and leaves you working nights. And just leaving people with the vague understanding that I do work a weird job, but they have no idea what it is. And I'm just reminded of that by the way that OP talks about their consulting work. The second one is just CEOs suck, or at least 95% of them do. A CEO that comes internally from the company who previously worked on the floor with other employees will oftentimes be more understanding of the field and actually just have better success with the company moving forward. Apple, like him or hate him, is a really good example of this. Tim Cook worked within distribution, became CEO after Steve Jobs' passing, and Apple grew to be one of the first trillion-dollar companies. Their new CEO works with hardware, so that'll be exciting. Now, in absolute stark contrast, you have the Epic Games CEO, the CEO behind Fortnite, who admits he doesn't play video games despite being CEO of one of the largest video game engine development companies on the planet. and seems to have the belief that gamers want AI slop and therefore it should be pushed left and right, and why are we not just consuming? It doesn't make sense to him. And you can just look at Epic Games' current trajectory right now to see where that's leading them. Like, they just cut 20% of their workforce, like, 3 months ago. There are some that of course buck the trend, but this is just kind of a general observation that if a CEO isn't involved with the company's product or actually understands the company, they're gonna do some stupid fucking shit that ends up burning the company to the ground. Just look at Warner Brothers. This post was collected by Dread Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Saying is not a pogo stick." The original P is Rulu, posted to r/mytheasshole May 14th, 2026. Would I be the asshole if I didn't invite my dad's wife to my high school graduation? Notice how I said my dad's wife, and not my stepmom. I don't see her in that capacity at all. English is not my first language. My 18 male parents had a rough divorce, and my dad immediately moved on and got married to his former high school girlfriend before my mom. So my dad's wife was someone who was forced into my life without me wanting her in it. She doesn't have kids, so she's always clinging and trying to make it seem like me and my sister are her kids, and we're this one happy big family. In my opinion, excuse my language, she's emotionally and socially a dumbass. She just doesn't know how to act. Once they first got married, they had a get-together, and me and the kids were apparently making lots of noise, so she took us to a room and locked us in. She was inside with us. She refused to let us out unless we vowed to not make any more noise. We were 6 and 7. God damn it. Would love to add the fact that I got a lot of shit for that because she was just joking, and I don't know how to take a joke. She just doesn't know how to act. This is going to sound crazy, but I actually love her mother, my dad's mother-in-law. She stood by my side during a lot of the problems and has called out her daughter's behavior. Now, my graduation is coming up. My mom thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at her vacation home, in addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids and I am the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. Now, she and my dad were very horrible to me in their first year of marriage, so personally, I've never liked her, and still kind of resent my dad for the way things went. I don't have enough tickets to invite her anyway. In addition to the fact that even if I did want to invite people that in a way or another raised me or helped my parents raise me, those include my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, who one of which doesn't have a kid and I'm the actual closest thing he'll ever have to a kid, in addition to the fact that I share my last name with him. My mom thinks it's going to be very awkward for my dad to leave the house to go to my graduation and for her to ask him and for him to reply and say, "My name's graduation." I think it's insanely inappropriate for her to be there. My mom is trying to avoid problems with my dad, but what business does she have being at the same event concerning me with my mom and grandma? Personally, I don't care about what people think. I care about my happiness and the fact that I don't want her there. I feel like I shouldn't need to justify this to anyone, and it's my decision. I probably need to get over a lot of the things that happened in the past, but that's an issue for another day. Inviting her won't change that. Just to add, if I wanted to invite her, I'd have to sacrifice inviting one of my aunts/uncles, which I'm not doing, and I'd rather not have a graduation than invite her. Also, I wasn't invited to their wedding. Relevant comments, Glittering Paper 4516. Just invite him. "Hey Dad, tickets were extremely limited. I'm sure you and wife will understand. Looking forward to seeing you." If he makes a fuss, says he won't come, I'm really disappointed to hear that, Dad. This isn't personal, it's logistics. Hope he responds. That's a good idea. Thank you. User OK Tonight 3703 comments, "Not the asshole. It's your decision, not your mother's. She locked you in a room when you were a child and nobody thought that was fucking unhinged. My mom thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at her vacation home in addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids and I'm the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. So fucking what? You're not her child and she did a shit job of trying to connect with you when you were young. Locking you in a room with her is not the way to bond with a child. Stop discussing this with your mother, invite who you want. Don't jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. Give out the invites. If your father chooses not to come, oh well. Sounds like he was a good dad anyway. Congratulations on your graduation. OP responds, they thought it was a funny joke and that I can't take a joke. Exactly. Thank you. Again, thank you. User leading summer 4724 comments, not the asshole. As a stepmom myself and as someone who had my own family bork out over who got to come to my graduation, this is your day. You invite who you want to be there, period. That said, it's best to manage your dad's expectations prior to the big day and do your best to not put your mom in the middle of the conversation. I only say this because she seemed to be concerned about avoiding problems with your dad. And that may be because she expects a social backlash to fall on her. Make it clear to your dad that this is your choice, and you shouldn't try to go to your mom and make her uncomfortable with the idea she will change your mind. Opie responds, I told my mother that this wasn't her battle to fight and that he had nothing to do with it, and that I'd handle it all. Thanks for your comment. User not who you think comments, not the asshole. This is your graduation, and like you said, there aren't even enough tickets to begin with. Do not cave and do not let them guilt you into this. I have a similar family dynamic as you. I'm 30 now, and my dad married a textbook narcissistic nightmare of a woman who treated me, my sister, and my brother horribly while treating her own 2 kids as if they shit rainbows. When we tried to talk to my dad about her and the horrible things she did to us, he refused, and honestly still refuses, to acknowledge that he was emotionally absent and left his biological kids to deal with someone who was genuinely toxic. He hid behind the provider role since it was easy for him than facing his own trauma and actually being emotionally present for the kids who needed him. To this day, he still downplays / flat out denies a lot of what happened, so my relationship with him is very surface level now. I only talk to him occasionally just to make sure he's okay because I know I'd feel guilty if something happened, like him dying. And we never spoke again. I finally stood my ground and called him out when I was around 25, and honestly, wish I had done it sooner. You're allowed to protect your peace and set boundaries, even with family. Do not wait to do so, like I did. OP responds, thank you so much for your advice, it really means a lot. Look, I've always been confrontational and attempted to stand my ground since I was a kid. But I was weak. I was a child. I lacked the vocabulary needed in order to defend myself. But now, I'm not weak, so I'm standing my ground. User Cat Jarman's Pants comments, easy decision, hard conversation. You simply need to have a conversation with your dad one-on-one, and say that now you're an adult, you want to have a grown-up relationship with him, that he needs to understand that you don't see his wife as stepmother/family figure, and the pair of you don't get on. See how diplomatic I'm being here? That you accept that for him, this conversation will be difficult, but that he needs to understand that she won't be a part of your life. You'll be pleasant, friendly, etc., but you're not going to withhold an invitation to your graduation from someone you really want to attend, whatever the relationship to you, in order to give one to her. And in the lie that if you had an unlimited supply of invitations, you'd given her one, but you didn't. He may know it's a lie, but it's about softening the blow. You're going to face the rocky truth that he may decide not to attend without his wife. And that will be the pattern throughout life. Birthdays, weddings, children's parties, etc. You can then decide that you're fine with that, or not. Not the asshole, but this isn't a one-time thing. In becoming an adult, you get to make decisions about your life, but you also get to keep the consequences. OP responds, yes, definitely. The diplomacy/message delivery is the most important thing in the situation. Exactly. I understand that my potential decision could have consequences, but I'm fine and at peace with my decision. Update. June 27th, 2026, 6 weeks later. When I wrote the post, I wrote it as a hypothetical scenario. Despite my mom and brother's warnings, I thought my dad wasn't going to ask me to invite his wife. Boy, was I wrong. After I wrote the post, I went to my mom and I told her that there will not be a graduation if his wife comes. I then listed a bunch of shit she did over the past few months. Oldest was November 2025. And my mom was shocked. One of those things was her trying to turn my dad against me because I didn't tell him my school grades. The reason I don't is because he goes and runs to her and tells her everything. My mom sided with me, ultimately. 2 weeks after the post, I was in the supermarket with my dad, and he told me to do a favor for him. Invite your stepmom. Initially, I told him I wish I could, but there wasn't enough tickets. He then told me, no problem, I'll call his uncle and tell him not to come. He was really willing to not have his brother come just to appease his wife. I told him no, there's not enough tickets, and that it'd be very inappropriate for her to be there with my grandma and mother attending. He told me that I'd be causing him a huge problem and that he might not be able to come. So I told him, good riddance, now you're making it so I can be able to invite my friends who weren't going to be able to come. Then he secretly went to my brother and started getting mad at his wife, saying that she's causing him problems and he's sick of her and whatnot. After I got home, he started talking badly about my mom and her family, saying that he's paying for the tickets, $200, and that they're coming on his pay. He then started insulting my mother's brother and my grandma, saying how they're coming on his pay and how he doesn't like them. So I immediately went to the bathroom and messaged my mom to pay the tickets, to which she did, to which she was at shock. Then he started saying how upset his wife would be and whatnot. I told him it's your job as your husband to tell her when you can't get something done for her. Not everything she asks is going to be possible, especially at my expense. He then started breaking and told me that his wife came to him and said, why did OP not invite me to his graduation when I want to make a large family gathering to celebrate him? I told him, then you're making a very big deal of nothing. She just asked a question. You could have said there's not enough tickets. You didn't need to talk to me about any of this. I then told him that he better tell his wife that whatever gathering she makes, I'm not attending. Anyway, a couple of days later was my senior trip, so on the day before, I called him and told him that just to get the facts straight, I don't want your wife there. It's not my mom or grandma, it's the fact that I don't want her there. He was kind of shocked by that, but then I was boarding the plane, so I had to hang up. I haven't seen his wife really since a couple of days before the original post. I saw her briefly in a funeral 2 weeks ago, to which I was very cold and distant. Going on, I'm not going to their house, and I'll be cutting contact with her completely. Yesterday was my graduation, and his wife didn't attend, but my dad came. It was a lovely day where I was surrounded by people who love and respect me, not people who try to force themselves into my life. Smiley face. So because there's limited tickets, the question's just entirely off the table, and the dad needs to grow a goddamn spine and stop trying to use his kids as a scapegoat and pushing all the responsibility onto them. Like, come on, man, that's your wife, talk to her. Now, if there were unlimited tickets, with everything that we know, I would say that OP is still justified in not inviting his stepmom, with the addition that she still has this behavior even well into the current day and hasn't really changed. Yeah, definitely not. But if it was one instance back when he was like 6 or 7, and where she had locked herself with the kids in the room as a really piss-poor attempt to be a parent, tried to take accountability for it, and that was the only thing OP had, then I'd probably have some different thoughts. However, the addition of her just being like, why can't you take a joke? That definitely makes it a hard pass on that, because if all these years later, if she's unwilling to take responsibility of, yeah, I was trying to be a parent and I fucked up, and instead is going for the, it was just a joke, why couldn't you take a joke, as a 6-year-old? Yeah, no. She shouldn't have an invite. Basically, with all the information that we have, without a doubt, OP has no obligation, responsibility, or even formality to invite the stepmother. Even if she was paying her own way in with unlimited tickets, I don't think he would have to invite her. Congrats on graduating, OP. It's a shame that your dad's unwilling to stand up for anyone except for his wife and willing to throw anyone and everyone under the bus in order to appease her or skate responsibility onto them, but it sounds like you know where to go from here and what kind of contact he deserves to have. Hey, welcome to the outro. I am getting ready for a night's sleep after getting the video done. Looking forward to some AFK gamer sups with melatonin. They actually have a hot cocoa flavor that uses hot water, and that's pretty good. Use code OZ at checkout. Get 10% off. And if you're in the US, you get melatonin in your AFK. Or you can if you want that. They do have regular AFK, which works without melatonin, but the melatonin one hits like a bat to the skull in a good way. So if you have that option and you want to give it a shot, I'd highly recommend it. But for those of you who are in an area where melatonin is not over the counter, the regular AFK, which is Gamer's Subs' sleep aid, still works really well. Anyways, I'll catch y'all next time.